The college basketball season is less than 1 week away, and the season starts with a bang. There are 126 games scheduled for Monday, November 7th, with Baylor and Mississippi Valley State tipping off at noon Eastern Time. We have two ways to help you get this season underway. Number one, as we did for the start of the NHL season and as well as the beginning of the NBA season, all 7-day college basketball packages will be only $49 through Sunday, November 13th at midnight. Number two, head to Ralph Michaels' homepage at wagertalk.com and get the free 100-page college basketball preview. The shortcut to Ralph's page is wt.buzz/rm. This 100-page guide has returning starters, percentage of returning minutes, last season's overall stats, as well as conference-only statistics, plus against the spread and over-under data. It also includes coaching data, conference previews, and a forecast for each conference. Whether it's a 7-day college basketball package, checking the Wager Talk odds page for updated numbers, or downloading the free college basketball guide, enjoy this season. And March Madness will be here before we know it.
Hey guys, welcome in and a very happy, Thursday to you here now. Week 11 of the college football season is upon us, and we've got some great games coming up this weekend. Crunch time for some of them now that the playoff committee has told us who the top 4 teams in the country are. And we're going to break down some of those games here that matter, and we're going to do it, of course, with 3 of the best here on the College Football Kickoff Show as we welcome in the Thursday crew. Adam Trigger in the house. Tony Mejia is here. And the red-hot Drew Martin on a 6-0 football run here, guys. Also, hint, hint, has a play up here tonight ready to roll. But, Trig, what's going on, my man? I know you've already got some plays locked and loaded, not only for tonight, but for the weekend. So tell us about them.
Yeah, so tonight I have a 5% NFL play. 12 and 5 on my last 5% football plays. The 5%ers have really carried me for the football season, and that goes in the NFL tonight. And I've been crushing the midweek football games. Have been great. I think this is the first time I'm playing Thursday night football for a client play, but they've been awesome in the midweek football. As far as college basketball is concerned, I have 2 college basketball plays that are client plays tonight. I just tweeted one of them out for free and talked about it on Wager Talk today. The other you can get as part of the day pass or the 7-day college hoop pass that I think is still up on all of our pages for just $49. So check that out for me and everyone else on the panel.
Love it. All right, good stuff there. Drew, 6-0, man. You are crushing it on the gridiron, and I know you are locked and loaded here tonight. So tell us about it, man. What's going on?
Yeah, thanks for the props, Joe. Seeing it well, and sometimes, been doing this long enough. When you're seeing it well, let it roll. And rolling tonight with one I really like. So got that up and available 4%. Big best bet going, wagertalk.com. Also, excited to break down these 3 games with you, man. So thanks for having me on, Joe.
Yep, going to be a good time, man. Love these. Just love when it's rolling in football. Everything you touch turns to gold, man. That's what it's all about. Tony Mejia knows a little something about that. Mejia, as you too, ready to roll here on a Thursday night football action. A ton of action this weekend as well. What do you got locked and loaded for us?
Locked and loaded on NFL 3% play because that's how much I like it. Didn't quite get there to the 4 or the 5 level, and a couple of props in that game. Panthers, Falcons. See if the Falcons can continue to make noise in the NFC South, put some pressure on the Bucs. We will have college basketball and NBA plays. We'll be on the NBA show here next hour, 4-game card, I should say. You would not have wanted to be around me late last night when back-to-back games went by the wayside, and 2 in action because we were leading the whole night with Buffalo, and then great run by Bert Emanuel the second or junior, whatever he calls himself. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Fantastic run, one of the better runs you'll ever see. And then Western Michigan, they were just beat themselves up and deserved to lose, really. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder and Milwaukee Bucks we'll talk about on the NBA show, but I was not pleasant to be around. Fortunately, made it through a hurricane that hit 4 a.m.-ish, and all good on that front. So ready to rock today.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and Emmanuel had like 250 on the ground last night. It was unbelievable. What a night for him. But hey, we've got an SEC matchup here. We're going to start with guys that, well, let's face it, a 2-loss Alabama. Not why guys go to Alabama, Drew. Nobody goes to Alabama to play in the I don't give a crap bowl, which is exactly where they're heading. Laying 12 right now, 64.5 is the number. Ole Miss trying, and Lane Kiffin trying to impose their will. Can they get it done here, Drew?
Joe, I hope you're right with your tee off. Alabama on the outside looking in. Unfortunately, as an Auburn fan, I'm so worried that it's just going to get down to the end. And, oh, that 4 slot, we need somebody to fill that. How about Alabama and Nick Saban? I can just see it happening now with the SEC bias and really the Alabama bias. But hopefully that doesn't happen as a fan. And breaking this one down, I mean, we get Lane Kiffin up against his old boss and Nick Saban. And I don't know, Joe. I mean, you just look at Alabama, 2 losses by a total of 4 points, both on the road to Tennessee and LSU. And you look at Ole Miss and who they've played, they've kind of, you know, they have their schedule kind of backloaded. And for whatever reason, it's about as easy as an SEC West schedule can get. And they've actually only played one top 25 team, and they lost by 25 points. So I don't know how good this Ole Miss team really is. I mean, can they stay within, 12 points of Alabama? If Alabama really comes to play, you know, angry off of a loss, I'm not so sure they can, Joe. So get my popcorn ready. If you actually made me play it, I would probably be on Alabama minus the 12.
You know what? Wmaybe we should just be thankful they have 2 losses, which is why we're getting this thing, in the 2 touchdown range. Because if they were undefeated, this number would be through the roof here. What do you think, Trig? Is this a Alabama spot may come out a little flat, or do you think they just steamroll them?
Joe, I just want to start with this, and this is just to summarize this pretty much how frustrating sports betting is. Like 6 weeks ago, I came on all of these shows and said, what if Alabama's just a normal team this year? Like, what if they're not the Alabama team that's like perennial top 5 college football playoff contender? What if they're just a normal sort of like fringe top 10 team? And I was right about that and didn't make a single dime off of it, right? Like, I never really bet against Alabama on that run. And of course, they've had a run where they really haven't covered many games. They lose outright to LSU last week. They lose outright to Tennessee. And there's just no way I'm going to lay 12 with them here for that reason. I've been saying it for weeks. I think this is just more of a good team, like a top 10 team, not a college football playoff caliber team. The secondary, when they run into guys that can really press their secondary, they struggle. They're heavily penalized. And so there's no way I'm going to lay 12 here. Do I want to sort of step in front of they finally get it right one of these weeks? I don't know, but it certainly seems like it could be a flat spot because they're in that sort of bubble burst scenario. Steve Merrill just talked about it when we were doing a video on this game. That sort of like, okay, now you're definitely and Drew makes a good point. Like, they'll probably just be like, oh, we need someone for that 4th spot. Why not Alabama? But really, there's no reason that this team should be in the discussion for a college football playoff spot right now, and it's highly unlikely that they're going to get there. Do I want to get involved with a team laying 12 that profiles like that? Not really. I do see some reasons I would want to bet against Ole Miss, specifically Texas A&M throwing the ball all over them a couple weeks ago in that game, which is, and that's not a good Texas A&M offense. So that's a little bit concerning. In the end, I do think that this could be a flat spot for Alabama. I do think this is too many. So the only way I could bet this would be to take the points.
So if there's one thing we know, Tony Mejia, is, and Trig, he's right, he brought it up back in the beginning here, where what if Alabama is not the Alabama of old? And I can tell you this, from a penalty perspective, this is one of the most undisciplined Alabama Nick Saban coach teams I've ever seen. They continue to shoot themselves in the foot. So kind of hard with teams like that to lay this kind of number. Are you willing to do it?
No, I wouldn't lay it. I honestly think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I could see Alabama covering, but I'm definitely not going to be on either Ole Miss plus 12 or Alabama -12. I think Drew inadvertently uttered the Auburn apologist's first sentence. If you need a team to defend, two losses on the road by a total of 4 points, sign them up. I mean, really, it led both games in the fourth quarter. I can go on and on, but certainly vulnerable. I mean, this Alabama team has the best safety prospect in the country, and their secondary gets lit up by the likes of Haynes King. And it has continued to happen. I mean, they should have lost to Hendon Hooker in Tennessee. I mean, they did lose. Should have lost by more. They had a touchdown gift wrap for them on that miscommunication on a option play right near the goal line that looked like it had set them up for the win. The LSU game, obviously, they let slip away. And Ole Miss should give them problems because Ole Miss can run the ball. Quinshon Judkins, I believe, is tied for the national lead in 20-plus yard runs. They got Zach Evans, a transfer from TCU, who's extremely explosive. Mingo in the passing game is solid. And Jackson Dart is a mobile quarterback who should be able to give them problems. So from that standpoint, Ole Miss has weapons. Lane Kiffin has shown the ability to bother Alabama defenses. And, here's one other stat. The last time this game was in Oxford, it was tied 42-all in the fourth quarter. 63-48 was the final, a total of 1,370 yards between the two teams, and that was Lane Kiffin's first season at Ole Miss. So I think he's got the potential, especially coming off a bye, to bother this Alabama team. Again, I'm not going to mess with the point spread, but I think it's going to be high scoring. Weather should be good. I'd bet the over.
All right, betting up and over that one, a little SEC battle mid-afternoon there, 3:30 kickoff, guys. We're going to head to the 7 o'clock kickoff, and we're going to head out west as Washington will be traveling to Eugene to take on the Oregon Ducks. And, boy, what a turnaround after getting absolutely smashed in the first game against Georgia and everyone and their mother sticking a fork in Oregon. Well, Drew, you know a little something about Bo Nix. He comes around, and my God, is there anybody playing better than he is right now? Penix Jr. also doing it for Washington. 2 touchdowns for Oregon, 72.5. Ton of points. Where do you approach this one here?
Joe, you bring up a ton of points. I like it towards the over. I mean, first off, it's a great game in Eugene in the Conference of Champions here. You bring up Bo Nix. You can almost see it coming. With his athleticism, he's a really good athlete, guys. He's quick back there. And not going up against these SEC defensive fronts week in, week out, his skill level's really starting to shine here in the Pac-12. Oregon can really move the ball. The only thing is Washington can as well. Washington, #1 pass offense in the country, and that includes last week where they were playing in pretty much a monsoon and didn't get a whole lot done through the air. So this offense with Michael Penix can really throw it around, Joe. I see them moving the ball against Oregon. I see Oregon moving the ball against Washington. 72.5. I know it's a high total here, Joe, but it's high for a reason, and it looks like the weather's going to hold up here in the Pacific Northwest, which is something you got to always check, guys, coming into the month of November. As we're talking right now, midweek, it does look pretty good in Eugene. I'd go up and over 72.5, Joe. I see this. I say maybe Oregon touches 50 here. Washington, gets up into the 30s as well. So I'd go up and over.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's going to be entertaining as all hell. I'm with you, Drew. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Could very well land close to triple digits. But what do you think here, Trig? Oregon has dominated this series in the past, 14-2 since 2004. They don't often give Washington any room to breathe. Does that change here in this one, Lane, close to 2 touchdowns?
Well, I don't disagree with Drew, but I think if it goes up and over, it's going to be because Washington's hanging around. I think Washington's going to be able to score in this game. I'm looking at Oregon's schedule right now since the Georgia game, and really we'll go back to their Pac-12 opener against Washington State, which is a game they probably, I don't know if I'm willing to say they should have lost, but they scored 29 points in the fourth quarter of that game, Joe, to win 44-41. They certainly could have lost. Since then, they've played Stanford, Arizona, UCLA, California, Colorado. So basically, they've played 4 of the worst teams in their conference, and sandwiched in there was a home game against UCLA, who was in kind of a bad spot on College game day. It was a really nice setup for Oregon. Here, they get a Washington team that, even though they don't cover spreads, they're 0-5 in their last 5 against the spread. They are winning games. Like, they're finding ways to win games, just not by margin. And the kicker here for me, Joe, is they have Utah coming up next week, which is a huge game for them, because not only is it arguably, well, no, it is. It is the biggest game on their schedule the rest of the way, but it's also a game that sort of cost them in years past. It's been the Utah-Oregon game that they have slipped up in. So they've got what I consider to be a pretty big look-ahead spot here with Utah on deck for next week. I don't see how there are two touchdowns better than Washington, guys. I have this much closer. It's a game that I'm strongly considering adding to my client card. I just think, Penix is the real deal. I love the way he's been playing, and I think he's going to keep them in that game. So 2 touchdowns here for Washington seems like too many to me.
I'm wondering it hits 14 before kickoff. It'll be interesting to see. What do you think, Mejia? Might we get 14 before kickoff? It probably won't last very long, but what do you think of this matchup?
I think it's a great matchup. I think, what Drew said, echoes my sentiment. I expect to see points. I think it'll be a fun arcade-type game. You've got Kenny Dillingham, who's probably going to move on somewhere else. If his old boss, Silverfield, down in Memphis, gets the axe, he's a prime candidate there. Was at Auburn for a year with Bo Nix, and now is reunited with Bo Nix as the Bo Nix Whisperer. And the same situation with DeBoer, who was at Indiana with Penix, and now he's got Penix running the show in his first season at Washington. These are 2 first-year head coaches. And what we've seen out of Bo Nix, it's been a tremendous season for him since the Georgia beatdown, where he's now catching touchdown passes, total command of the offense. Like I said, it's Dillingham's offense that really incorporates a lot of principles and takes shots, uses a lot of players in the slot. You got Jalen McMillan. Rome Odunze has been tremendous all season long, making big plays down the field. They stretch you out. So from that standpoint, with the weather being cooperative, I think Washington is a nice play. Washington is a nice play in terms of being able to push tempo and hang right in there with Oregon. So even if Oregon does pull away, it's got solid backdoor cover potential, especially if it reaches 21. And then you've got Penix, who under DeBoer was tremendous in Bloomington, and then tore both ACLs, I believe. 1 year after the other, he suffered injuries. So this is a redemption story for him. Accurate passer. He is susceptible to the turnover, so that's a concern. But again, I think if he can avoid that bug, he's got the weapons to match what Bo Nix is going to do with the Ducks. So yeah, this, even though Lanning is a defensive coach with Oregon, I think this profiles as a high-scoring game.
All right, Oregon at home versus Oregon on the road. Been a different story. We'll see if they can handle business by margin here against the Huskies. Should be a good one at 7 o'clock. And that leaves us one more here, guys. And go figure. Anytime we say we've never seen it before, usually means, well, should be an interesting outcome. As TCU 9-0 taking on the Texas Longhorns, who have 3 losses? Wait a minute. Is that right? -7? They're a touchdown favorite playing a 9-0 team. The total is 65. In fact, it's never happened before, guys. We have never had a team be this big a favorite against a 9-0 squad when they've got 3 losses. It's never happened, which of course means this score is going to be 8-5, Drew. A lot of people think this is a absolute wrong team favorite situation. TCU should be there. They should be the favorite. Is TCU getting your money this weekend?
Joe, this is one of those, you look at the point spread, you hear everybody talking about. I feel like everybody's up. Texas is the side here. That's what the odds makers are telling us. -7 up against the 9-0 team. Also 8-1 against the spread. I mean, Sonny Dykes has done well. I mean, he's inherited a lot. He's also recruited, in the transfer portal. And he's gotten great quarterback play as well from Dugan, who I'm surprised isn't getting more Heisman hype here for TCU. If they're able to pull this off, this is impressive from the Horned Frogs in the Big 12. Joe, I know the market's telling us that Texas is the side here, -7. It's just screaming at us. But I've learned, man, when a team is 8-1 against the spread, and they've just been making a moneymaker like this to this point in the season, I don't step in front of it. College game day, Austin. This is going to be a great atmosphere, man. This is one of those I'm going to watch as a fan Saturday night, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas blows them out. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if TCU shocks the world and says, stop disrespecting us. So it's just watching as a fan for me, man, but a fun one for sure.
We got to figure out what's going on with Quentin Johnson there, Trig. He rolled his ankle last game. He is an absolute game changer for TCU, but I mean, come on, 9-0 versus a 3. They kind of feel like they did this with Oklahoma State and Texas too, right? 6.5 kind of situation. What do you think here? Is the wrong team favorite with Texas at home?
It's possible, Joe. I'm always on here trying to give like a contrarian opinion. That's just my style. But I don't have one here. And when I look at this game and crunch the numbers and look at the situation, I would be on TCU. Now, can I possibly, like, it like goes against everything I stand for to like put that on my client card, because it's going to be the squarest dog on the planet on Saturday. Everyone's going to take the touchdown here with TCU, but I mean, Texas has not been good as a Big 12 favorite. So, and I watched every snap of Texas K-State last week because I had a best bet on K-State. And I think that was more Kansas State playing poorly in the first half than it was Texas just being, better in that game. So another thing I like to do, Joe, is come back and try to play against the same team the following week, which would put me on TCU. And what I've noticed about this TCU team is they really don't, they're well coached, they don't make mistakes, they don't turn the ball over, they don't commit, we talked about Alabama being the heavily penalized team. TCU is barely ever commits penalties. And they play good football. So now, like Drew's saying, they're 9-0. They have to start believing that they can win these games. And that starts to get a little bit dangerous, right? Like, I think they really do believe that they're the better team here. And you're getting a touchdown with that. It reminds me of looking at their season to this point, just to give it a little college basketball flair to you guys. They're like Providence from last year in college hoop, where they got a bunch of things that went their way to make them look like the quote-unquote lucky team. But then as the season progressed, they got really good. And then it was just they were really good. And that's where I think we're starting to see TCU here. I have no desire to lay 7 with Texas. I don't know if I can justify, like, jumping in with TCU now because I haven't bet them on this run at all. And I'm not going to come in and then bet their one loss. But if, just a unbiased opinion here, I would have to take the points with the Horned Frogs. It's way too many. Texas is way too inconsistent, and they're just not good enough to be laying 7 in this situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher here, Mejia. I can't think of anything else scarier than trying to sweat out a Sarkeesian Coast team, handling business and closing out in the second half. It just doesn't happen with Texas. Man, is that scary. But the market, it hasn't really budged one way or the other, which is fascinating to me. I'm wondering if it'll move before kickoff, but how are you leaning?
Well, I think these are pretty sharp bettors next to me having this conversation. And I'm of the same opinions of where I'm looking at it thinking before the line is released, all right, I bet you Texas is going to be favored maybe 3, 7. And 7 is supposed to terrify you. I honestly, because it's done it to both of us. I think it's done it to everybody that looks at this line and says, oh, well, then Texas is going to win by 10 or more. And maybe that's what it's supposed to do. But yeah, obviously, I think TCU is the play because, TCU's been written off already and remains undefeated. They played Oklahoma State, I think, the ugliest, that early, lethargic start. And then they're playing catch up most of the way, and they caught them finally in the fourth quarter to send it to overtime, won that game, beat Kansas State the next week, West Virginia and Texas Tech after that. and they've been expected to lose both of those games. I think by some contrarians that said, all right, TCU's not that good. But what would keep me off TCU this week is Quentin Johnson, who you referenced at the beginning of the segment, and he's got a high ankle sprain, missed most of the Tech game, and will probably play. But how effective is he going to be? 6'4" red zone target and stretch the field. Likely the top receiver taken in next April's draft. So a big piece to the puzzle if you're going to ride TCU. And then the weather's going to be a factor. 39 degrees. It's going to be really cold. Neither of these teams have played in cold weather, so we'll see who steps up and does that. But certainly, Sarkisian's got Texas in a position to control its destiny. They win this game. They also have Baylor coming into town at the end of the season, so they can be in the Big 12 championship. But when do we actually get to see and say with certainty Texas is back? We make fun of it instead. So for all those reasons, TCU would be the play. But yeah, check out Johnson's availability.
Yeah, they're back like the U. Oh God.
Right.
I did find one stat. I found one stat here that will help maybe make some sense. And it has to do with, guys, teams in November and December that make it there and are undefeated and find themselves on the road as a touchdown or more dog. 5-12 against the number, just 29%. Just happened to Tennessee, in fact, last week, being a touchdown or more dog on the road, undefeated, month of November. We'll see if TCU becomes the second victim of that trend, but should be a fun one to watch. Anytime you're expecting Sarkisian to hold on to a lead, it becomes very, very fun. Let's go around the horn here, guys, as the card is fantastic this week. Some really good spots. You heard Trig tell you he's got a football play tonight, a 5% best bet, of course, plays this weekend. Drew's got a 4% best bet on a 6-0 run. And you heard Mejia, he's got a bunch of props. He's got a best bet tonight in football. No reason not to make it a profitable Thursday, building that bankroll as we get ready, of course, for a few more weeks of college football and playoffs and all of that good stuff. Visit Trig, visit Drew, visit Tony Mejia. Go to their pages over at wagertalk.com. All right, hit us off, Drew. Come on, man. You got a best bet here, either these games or something off the board that you like a little more than the rest?
Going to the Conference of Champions, Joe. Washington, Oregon, 72.5, up and over. We get a pass defense from Oregon. It is their weakness, guys. You can move the ball through the air against them. And Washington has the #1 ranked pass offense, total pass offense in the country. Michael Penix Jr., he's playing well. He can spin it. And Bo Nix, don't look out now. He's left the SEC, and he's doing well in the Pac-12, Joe. He's moving around with his feet, doing enough with his arm here. I think Oregon wins, but even more so, I like it up and over 72.5. See a high-scoring affair in Eugene, Oregon. Weather holding up in the month of November. Over Washington and Oregon, Joe.
Man, Drew, if I was a betting man, I'd have said for sure you're back in Auburn to kick A&M's ass. But I do. I like the up and over as well there. Talk to me here, Trig. What are you thinking here? Trig's like, yeah, I would have thought that as well. Talk to me. Where are you going for a best bet here, Trig?
Well, Joe, we'll stay right there. And I don't disagree with Drew, but I think a good amount of those points are going to come from Washington. So I'm going to take the points with the Washington Huskies. They've failed to cover their past 5 games, but their last 3 have been wins. And they've been playing lesser schools where they've been getting by, winning but not covering. I like them in the underdog role here to hang around. The underdog is actually 7-0 against the spread in this series in their last 7 games. And, Drew talked about Penix. I think he's an incredible player. I think he alone can keep this Washington offense moving up and down the field. Obviously, there's some other pieces there. And I'm willing to go against Oregon, who's had a really light schedule of late and is in a very difficult look-ahead spot with Utah on the horizon next week. I like this Oregon team, but not by 2 touchdowns here, Joe. I think that's too many. I fully expect this game to be competitive. It's been competitive most of the last decade when these two teams have met. So give me the 2 touchdowns with the Washington Huskies. This team is 7-2. They've won 3 straight. They've had some tough luck against the spread, but I think that changes here. They will keep it within 2 touchdowns, and I would not be surprised if they potentially pulled the upset here with Oregon looking ahead to Utah.
All right, get it done. I love it. All right, it should be one of the more entertaining games on the card this week. What do you think, Mejia? Which way are you leaning for a best bet?
I'm going to go with Florida State reigning on the Syracuse Seniors party because it's final day at the Carrier Dome for anybody that's played at Syracuse over the past few years. And they've had a great season, and they're going to be bowl bound. And this has been the best team Dino Babers has had in quite some time. But I think Florida State is just playing too well to fade them. And I looked and haven't seen anything definitive on Garrett Schrader coming back, and I don't believe we'll find out until game day. And I don't trust his backup Del Rio Wilson, a young kid who's very highly touted, started his career at Florida and then transferred to Syracuse and is by all accounts the future there, but he looked like a deer in the headlights against Pittsburgh. Florida State, man, they're nasty. You saw it in Coral Gables how well they played. I think the way to go is to lay the 7 points with Florida State. I think they win by double digits at Syracuse this Saturday.
Oh, they are rolling, people. Florida State is, and Mejia says lay to 7. They'll get it done against Q's, while Trig says take them points. May even make it to 14, guys. Keep an eye. 13.5 for Washington, and Drew says, yeah, get ready for some points here. Over 72.5 in that matchup. And again, guys, if you head over to wagertalk.com, visit all 3 of these gentlemen. You can also catch that live odds page. It is for free, guys. Just visit wagertalk.com. Make sure you keep an eye on that Washington-Oregon game. As soon as it hits 14, you will know. So it's a great, useful tool, as well as grabbing the best bets of Adam Trigger, Drew Martin, and Tony Mejia tonight. A lot on the board, a lot of ways to make it a very profitable start to the weekend. And certainly hope you'll visit all 3 of these guys. Hope you'll come back and join us again tomorrow, as we've got 3 more games and best bets we'll break down as we head into Week 11. Big weekend here in college football. And until then, on behalf of Trig, Drew Martin, Tony Mejia, guys, we appreciate the time. Best of luck with all your plays here tonight. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Good luck.
Ready to take your favorite Wager Talk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The Wager Talk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like Wager Talk Today, Bet On It, and the Opening Line Report, plus browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for Wager Talk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.